Every great love story starts with a moment, a glance, a smile, a conversation that feels like it was always meant to happen. For Jake and Mia, that moment came on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon at a coffee shop in downtown Chicago. They both reached for the last blueberry muffin at the same time, laughed, split it in half, and talked for 4 hours straight. From that day on, they were inseparable. Their relationship was the kind people write songs about, full of late-night drives, matching playlists, and the kind of comfort that makes you feel like you've known someone your whole life. Friends called them goals. Family members said they'd never seen two people more perfectly matched. For 3 years, Jake and Mia built something beautiful, something that felt unbreakable. But as life would prove, even the strongest bonds can shatter from the smallest crack. What made Jake and Mia's relationship so special wasn't just the love they felt. It was the trust they had carefully built over time. They were open about everything: their fears, their flaws, their past relationships, their deepest insecurities. Jake knew Mia was terrified of being abandoned because her father had left when she was 9. Mia knew Jake struggled with self-worth because he'd spent years being overlooked at work and in life. They used that knowledge not as weapons, but as tools to love each other better. They had rules: no going to bed angry, always answer each other's calls, be honest even when it's hard. These weren't just promises. They were the pillars of everything they had together, and for 3 years, those pillars held strong. Neither of them ever imagined that one thoughtless moment could bring the whole structure crumbling down. It was a Friday evening in October, the kind of crisp autumn night that feels cinematic. Jake had been invited to his colleague Ryan's birthday party, and Mia had a work deadline, so she stayed home. Jake promised he'd be back by midnight. He kissed her on the forehead, told her he loved her, and walked out the door. The party was loud, crowded, and full of old friends Jake hadn't seen in years. He had a few drinks, laughed harder than he had in months, and lost track of time completely. By the time he checked his phone, it was 2:47 a.m. 12 missed calls from Mia, a string of texts that started with worry and ended with silence. He rushed home, heart pounding, not because he had done anything wrong, but because he knew exactly what this looked like to someone who was terrified of being left behind. And when he walked through that door, the look on Mia's face told him everything. Something had shifted. Jake walked in, saw Mia sitting on the couch with red eyes and a cold expression, and panicked. Instead of simply saying, "I lost track of time, I'm so sorry," he made a decision that would cost him everything. He lied. He said his phone had died and he hadn't realized how late it was. It was a small lie, barely even a lie, more of an omission. But Mia had already checked the phone records earlier that evening when she was worried about his safety. She saw that his phone had been active until 1 a.m., so when Jake stood in front of her and said his phone had died, she didn't say anything. She just nodded, said, "Okay," and went to bed. That silence was more terrifying than any argument, because Mia wasn't just hurt by the night, she was hurt by the lie. And for someone whose deepest wound was abandonment and dishonesty, that small untruth felt like a confirmation of everything she'd always feared. One lie. That's all it took to plant the seed of doubt. In the days that followed, nothing dramatic happened. There was no big fight, no screaming match, no ultimatum. Instead, there was distance. Quiet, creeping, devastating distance. Mia stopped reaching for Jake's hand when they watched TV. She started answering his "How was your day?" with "fine" instead of the long, animated stories he loved. She laughed a little less. She shared a little less. Jake noticed immediately, but didn't know how to bring it up without making things worse. He told himself she was just stressed about work. He bought her flowers, planned a surprise dinner, tried to be more present. But you can't fill a gap when you don't know what created it. And Mia, rather than confronting the lie, had locked it away inside herself where it quietly poisoned everything. This is how relationships often die, not in one dramatic explosion, but in a slow withdrawal of the warmth that once held everything together. 3 weeks after the party, everything came out. They were having a perfectly normal dinner when Jake made a joke about a night out with Ryan, and Mia put down her fork and said, "Tell me the truth about what happened that night." Jake froze. He knew immediately what she meant, and in that moment, he had another chance, a second opportunity to just be honest. But the shame of the original lie had grown so heavy that he doubled down. He insisted nothing had happened, that she was overreacting, that he couldn't believe she still didn't trust him after everything. Mia showed him the phone records. Silence fell over the table like a curtain, and then, in a voice that was devastatingly calm, she said, "Why did you lie to me about something so small?" That was the real question. Not what he did at the party, but why he felt the need to lie about something completely innocent. And Jake didn't have a good answer, because there wasn't one. Here's what most people miss when they analyze moments like this. The mistake wasn't really about a party or a late night. The real damage was done in the gap between what happened and what was said about it. Mia wasn't destroyed by Jake coming home late. People run late, phones die, parties go long. She was destroyed by the realization that in a moment of small pressure, Jake had chosen to protect himself rather than trust her with the truth. And for someone like Mia, someone who had spent her childhood watching the man she loved most simply walk away without explanation, that moment confirmed a story she had been fighting against her whole life. That eventually, the people you love will let you down and then lie about it. Jake's mistake wasn't missing a curfew. His mistake was underestimating how deeply honesty mattered to her, and overestimating how well a small lie could protect them both. To his credit, Jake didn't give up without a fight. Once the truth was out, he apologized, genuinely, repeatedly, with tears and letters and long conversations into the early hours of the morning. He explained that he lied out of fear, not out of guilt. He told her nothing had happened at the party, that he had simply been having fun and lost track of time, and that he panicked when he realized how late it was. He asked her to go to couples therapy. He cut back on nights out. He checked in more. He tried everything he could think of to prove that she could still trust him. And Mia tried too. She really did. She went to therapy on her own. She journaled. She talked to her best friend. She wanted to forgive him. But there's a painful truth about broken trust. You can acknowledge it, understand it, and even want to move past it, and still find that something inside you simply won't go back to the way it was before. Trying isn't always enough. 6 months after that October night, Jake and Mia broke up. It wasn't a dramatic ending. There was no cheating, no cruelty, no villain in the story. Just two people sitting across from each other on the same couch where they used to watch movies and share blankets, quietly acknowledging that something irreplaceable had been lost. Mia said she still loved him but couldn't stop waiting for the next lie. Jake said he understood and that he was sorry, not just for the lie, but for not realizing sooner how fragile trust really is. They hugged for a long time. They cried. And then Mia picked up the box of her things she'd already packed, because somehow she'd known this conversation was coming, and she walked out. Jake sat alone in the apartment that still smelled like her perfume and thought about how a single, unnecessary lie had undone 3 years of something genuinely beautiful. The party hadn't ended their relationship. A moment of cowardice had. So, what do we take from Jake and Mia's story? It's easy to look at it from the outside and think, that would never be me. But the truth is, we all make Jake's mistake in different ways. We tell small lies to avoid conflict. We choose comfort over honesty. We assume that protecting someone from a small truth is kinder than just saying what happened. But relationships are not built on comfort. They are built on trust. And trust, once fractured in exactly the right place, doesn't always heal back the same way. The lesson isn't never make mistakes. The lesson is, when you do make a mistake, the response matters more than the mistake itself. One honest, vulnerable, "I'm sorry I messed up in the right moment" can save everything. But one small lie told out of fear can start a chain reaction that even the deepest love cannot stop. Jake and Mia didn't lose each other because of a party. They lost each other because, when it mattered most, fear spoke louder than love.